So I just bought a couple of fixer-uppers with two good friends of mine that formed an LLC. And I want to tell you a little bit about what type of investment might just work in this market. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And yeah, we bought a couple of properties, and these are not million-dollar properties. As a matter of fact, they're on the inexpensive, dollar menu type of properties, but they needed a lot of work. And this is something we've been putting together for years and years and years. I've got a friend that's in the property management business with me that we've owned for years. Another friend who has been with the general contractor for 20 some years. So the brain trust is really good on this as far as knowing what to do, how to acquire it, how to fix it, how to rent it. And there's a book out there called the BRRRR Method. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and then repeat. And that's what we're doing. So we're not really flipping properties per se, although we could when they're all done. Our longer term vision is just to do what the book says, is to acquire properties and get them renovated, get them nice looking, get them rented out to good people, and then refinance it and wash, rinse, and repeat and keep doing it. And over time, that's a strategy that could work. And when you make these purchases, for me, it can be timeless, because if you're buying it in such a way that you are able to rent it out, maybe to an underserved market, part of that feels good. Seeing a property revitalized, we're going to pay more taxes. That will help out our community. And by the way, it helps ourselves too. We're not doing this for nothing, and it's not a charity. But we're also not flippers. And the margins are different, because when you're flipping, you've got to go in, you've got to get it at a super low price. You've got to be able to have the ability to renovate it and then sell it for a profit. And keep in mind, those taxes are due. They're short-term capital gains. So whatever your income level is, if you're at the 10% income level, which I don't think you're at if you're flipping, if you're in a 25 or 30% bracket, you make 30 grand, $7,500 might be right back out the window. So the margins are super thin right now. And this is the reason that if you have a listing on the market, you're getting all these, what you term lowball offers, is because all the wholesalers, investors, and flippers are all chasing the same rabbit. They have to buy something super low. They have to renovate it super cheaply. And I'm not saying cut corners, but they have to do it super cheaply. So when they go back on the market, you're purchasing a renovated home, but you still need to do your inspections, because on the surface they look really, really renovated, but they also had to do it within a budget to turn a profit. So they're not doing anything wrong here, but you need to examine that house that looked fully renovated and brand new. You got to examine it, because they're trying to make a significant profit to put money in their pocket, feed their families, hit their objectives, and pay some taxes. So what we're doing is quite differently. We're acquiring properties with the idea that we're going to renovate them and rent them out. So I'm not saying that we are willing to overpay, because we're not. But our margins are differently. We can say yes to a deal that a flipper can't say yes to, because as long as it fits the profit margin to rent it out, turn a profit, and run a successful business, we can look at that. We don't have these short-term capital gains to deal with. Ours would be long-term. We're going to hold it for at least a year. And ideally, once we buy a property, where we really wouldn't want to sell it and just keep those going over there. So I can see where a flipper could be struggling right now, where someone who's doing things just a little bit differently might be able to say yes to a deal that others would have to say no to, or make an offer that might be lower than the seller would like, that an agent would like, either. And when you're making these low offers, if the people, all they're thinking that you're doing is trying to make a profit, you can build this anxiety level, which really doesn't need to be there between an agent, a buyer's agent, a listing agent, a seller. We don't need the emotion. No one really wants that. We just want bona fide offers that we can complete, and buyers can buy, sellers can sell. I think what's different is right now, why we're having some success. We've gotten 2 properties in the last 2 months, and we're looking at properties actively every day, is that we're coming from a different place. The deal has to make sense to the seller. It has to make sense to us. If it doesn't, it's okay. But our rationale is a little bit differently, so we're actually going to keep the property and not flip it. And oddly enough, there's some sellers that, while they're chasing every last dollar, they feel differently when they know that you're going to keep the property and do something with it, as opposed to just make a quick buck, because they're thinking, that's what I want to do. I want to make a quick buck. And why would I give that extra money, to the flipper, the wholesaler? Flippers, wholesalers, everybody has a role. Nobody's bad. Everybody's good. It's just how some people feel when they're on the other side of it right now. So if you happen to see something, an offer come in on one of your properties from three idiots, well, that's probably us. So from this point forward, now you know it. So it's Three Idiots LLC. That's what we're doing right now. Look, we're having fun with it, and we're also doing some really good things. So if you are in the business of renovating homes and you're looking to acquire properties, or you've never been able to get in on it, and maybe you just want to invest and maybe not do the whole piece of work on your own, there is a way to invest along with another company and get a decent return on your money. So if any of this makes sense to you, that's great. You can drop me a line, send me a message, all the ways to reach me if you want more information. And if not, I hope that you at least got a little laugh out of the name. You spend all the time and energy to make a company and you call it Three Idiots. Well, there you go. All right. If you got questions, ask us. Definitely hit the subscribe button. And if you want to get involved, let us know. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.